So I want to ask you, have you ever been to an event, maybe a sporting event or a concert, where you left the concert or the sporting event, you got in your car, and you turned your car on, but you couldn't move for a really long time? Right? Anybody ever done that? Where you just sit and wait, and you watch, and you look. And then all of a sudden, what's happened to me is I look behind me and say, oh, those people are leaving, right? Why am I not moving? They're leaving, they're moving. And typically when I will go and get in the other line, the line I just left will start moving. Anybody else experience that? All right, so it's this crazy reality. So I've figured out that what I can do when I'm in one of those situations, that there's one or two reactions I can have. Right? I can just be so aggravated and frustrated that we're not moving and that our line should be going and we should be getting out of here. Or I can turn on some music and sing and just wait. Right? And so I tell you that because we've been talking about this living in hope idea. One of the differences, the world right now, so many in the world right now, are stuck in the parking lot and are very angry and frustrated and hopeless. But as followers of Jesus Christ, as a part of his kingdom, that's not who we are, because we live in the middle of this great hope. And so we've been talking about living in hope and what that looks like and why it's there. And last week we talked about the new heaven and the new earth. How at the end of time, God will create a new heaven and new earth, and they will become one. And there will be this new reality where we are living with God, and God is living with his people. And there's this new creation that will be so spectacular, and we talked about that last week. And so I want us to look at another aspect of this today, and one that we don't typically look at. And we're going to talk about the creation, and talk about the suffering the creation has been through, why they've gone through that suffering, but the hope that we find in what is to come because of it. And so hopefully this will be something that is a building block for where we're headed in all of this, but this reality that we can have this living hope, as we just sang, in the middle of a world that seems in total decay. All right? So we're going to be looking at Romans chapter 8. I'll ask you to go ahead and start turning there. And here in Romans 8, Paul has this incredible, now let me just say the book of Romans is Paul's most incredible writing of theology that he ever did. Most detailed, most specific, if you will. And so here in chapter 8 and really into chapter 9, he is talking about how everything is going to be made new and the hope that we have in eternity. And a part of that is the creation. So get to Romans 8. And then I just need you to listen to me for a second, because I want to go back verbally to Romans 1. In Romans 1, Paul said something very incredible to begin the book. And in fact, I'll read it to you so I don't mess it up. He said this: "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." And what Paul says is, and this is important, creation points to the Creator. Creation points to the Creator. We as creation, created in the image of God, we point to the Creator. And the rest of creation that is out there, the beauty of the creation that is, it points to the Creator. So as we go through this today, I want you to imagine that place in creation that is very special to you. Maybe it's taking a hike through the woods. Maybe it's on top of a mountain overlooking the beauty. Maybe it's at the beach seeing the waves. Wherever it is for you, I want you to keep in mind that beautiful place that you stop and say, wow, what an amazing God. Because the creation points to the Creator. And if someone sees the creation in those instances and don't see the Creator or not being pointed to him, it's because they don't want to be. Because it's very clear and it's very obvious that the creation points to the Creator. So, back to Romans chapter 8, starting with verse 18. I want to go through this a little bit with you, because again, Paul is talking about when everything comes together in the new heaven and the new earth. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Let me stop there for just a second. Paul is saying, and understand that the church in Rome was the apex or the center point of persecution. That's where it all started. And they were facing a horrible reality in Rome. And so where Caesar was, where people were being killed for the faith, where people were being turned in regularly because they were Christian. Paul said that the sufferings that you now have don't compare at all to what's ahead for us. And so going back to what we talked last week, just a quick reminder that whatever we're facing right now, the difficulties that we have, whether it's with pandemic, whether it's with financial issues, whatever it is, it's all temporary. And we're looking forward to the eternal. And Paul was reminding the Roman church, listen, I know it's suffering, I know it's difficult, but what you're facing now doesn't even come close to comparing to the beauty of what's ahead. All right? So then he goes on in verse 19, and we'll read through 24 here. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. Now, there's a lot there, and I want to really focus on 19 through 21 this morning. But verse 19, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. So Paul says in 19 that the creation itself is waiting for this renewal, for this time when the new heaven and the new earth are created, because it's going to set it free. Creation will be set free from the suffering that it's had. Look at verse 20. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it. Paul says something really interesting here. The creation is going through decay, as it says in 21, not by anything it's done, but because, are you ready? What humanity's done. I'll let that sink in for a minute. That the creation is suffering and anticipating with great anticipation the renewal and the remaking of all things because humanity caused creation to suffer. See, if you go back to Genesis 1 or Genesis 3, and the story of Adam and Eve, if you remember, Adam and Eve ate the fruit they weren't supposed to eat, and they got caught. And so God brought all these curses. He cursed the serpent, he cursed the woman, and he cursed Adam. And here's what he said to Adam in Genesis 3. To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, for dust you are, and dust you will return. And creation was cursed because humanity blew it. Now, I don't know if you've ever suffered anything because of someone else's choices, but it really stinks, right? I remember when I was in college, my parents' home was 4 hours away driving from my parents' home. And so I would get in my Datsun 510 station wagon without cruise control and drive the 4 hours to my college town. And so one spring break, I was on my way back, after spring break, on my way back to go to school, and I was driving through Austin. And in Austin, on I-35, they have this unusual creation. They have an upper deck and a lower deck where you drive, right? If so you go to the upper deck, you can see a lot of the city. You go lower deck, you really kind of go through faster. For whatever reason, I normally went on the upper deck, but for whatever reason this day I decided to take the lower deck. I was just ready to get there. And I was driving on the inside lane. I had pulled over to pass someone. I was on the inside lane, the furthest away from where anybody gets on. And all of a sudden, this guy gets on, and for whatever reason, comes all the way across and smashes into my car. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't make a mistake, but for the next 6 weeks, my life was going to be different. Insurance companies didn't give rental cars then, right? Dad didn't give money for a rental car, and Doug sure didn't have it, so I was stuck. And so it wasn't a big deal, and I survived it, and I made it through, but I look back on that moment, it was like, it was not a choice that I made. This guy messed up, and it hurt me. Now, you can think of all kinds of situations, I'm sure, where people have done things and made decisions which hurt you. Understand that the creation has experienced that from the first humans. Understand that the creation is waiting in great anticipation for the renewal of all things so it can be like it used to be. Creation is ready for God to do this great work. It's interesting that we have a lot of things that we have been difficult in this pandemic. But one of the things that has happened in the pandemic is this reality, is the earth and nature and creation has reminded us how good it could be. I don't know if you've kept up with some of the things that have gone on around the world because everybody's had to stay home for months. There's been some phenomenal things happen. The Venice Canal in Italy, crystal clear. First time in decades. There's also a video of dolphins swimming in the canal. Not sure that it's real, I can't confirm it, but I know in the video there's dolphins going up and down and Italian men really excited about it and speaking in their Italian. That's all I know. But it is crystal clear to the bottom. Hasn't been in decades. If you've ever been to Los Angeles and you go to the mountains above the city and look out, you see the city and you see a big cloud. It's all of the pollution. It's really disgusting. But that's what you see up on that mountain. They said for weeks in a row, for the first time in ages, it's been crystal clear above Los Angeles. Every city around the world has experienced some of that in recent history. We find now also that the animals are doing things they haven't done in years. In Wales, there are pictures of mountain goats coming down from the mountains, hanging out in the towns because the humans aren't there to chase them away. In Barcelona, they have wild boars going up and down the streets, and people are filming them and videoing them. In Japan, they have deer running down the streets of Tokyo. Everybody's excited about the deer. And on we go. We see the animals just going, this is awesome. The people aren't messing it up right now. And have you seen the video of Miami Beach when the water is crystal clear? It hasn't happened in ages. All that to say, the earth is saying, pointing to the Creator, it's going to be really cool when everything's made new. Now, don't mishear me. I'm not encouraging us to worship creation. That is the furthest thing from my mind. We worship only the Creator. But this is significant because of evangelism. It really matters because creation points to the Creator. And as those who have been put over creation, we need to be very careful to take care of the creation that God is letting us use because the creation points to Him. And so Paul writes, creation is just groaning, if you keep reading, groaning like someone in childbirth, just begging for that day to come when we as Christ followers will be revealed and everything will be made new. And so it is just amazing to see what happened in this short period of time, but a reminder of how amazing the creation is and how beautiful it is. And to imagine how much greater it's going to be in the new heaven and the new earth. All right. So Paul goes on, and in verse 21, he says that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom of the glory of the children of God. And so creation will be recreated. And I think it will be like it was before Adam and Eve messed up. And the creation is yearning and hoping for that moment to come when we, as the followers of Christ, will be revealed. Now, why are we talking about this? You know, the world's kind of messed up. But imagine a creation where there's no hurricane season. We don't have to go buy extra water. We don't have to make sure we have power to keep the refrigerator going. Imagine a place where there are no blizzards. We don't know much about that, but no blizzards. A place where there's no droughts. A place where there's no pandemics. And you know that's because of a decaying creation, right? And so we live in this reality where there's so much despair, so much hopelessness that we talked about last week, but as followers of Jesus, we have this reality. We have a picture of the creation that points us back to the Creator and gives us hope for what is to come. This morning, I'm going to show you a quick video of just some beautiful nature pictures to remind you of some of the things God's put together. just a reminder of what an amazing artist God is. And here's what's really fascinating about this. All of those beautiful pictures, and I'm sure in your mind you could think of many other places as well, that as awesome as those places are, they're not going to be as wonderful as the new heaven and the new earth. Now process that with me. And so the reality is, as we go through this journey that we're going through right now, and as we see hopelessness around us, we can be reminded that there is something so much greater ahead. That the God of the universe has seen all of the mistakes and all of the failures, said, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it for my people. And what a beautiful place it'll be. So I pray that in this time of everything that we're going through, that you will find hope in what is ahead. A place where the hurricanes and tornadoes are gone. A place where the pandemics don't exist anymore. A place that is so beautiful we don't have words to describe. That's hope in the midst of hopelessness. So if we're in the car and we're stuck and we don't have any place to go, trying to get out of the parking lot, let's be the ones that turn on the radio and sing. To bring hope into hopelessness and light into darkness. If you're here today or if you're watching today and you're not yet a follower of Jesus, I want to make it real clear to you that the hopelessness of this world, that the world is going through right now, does not have to be your reality. In fact, I want to encourage Christ followers of the same truth. You don't have to live in hopelessness. In fact, you shouldn't. Because you were created for something much greater. You were designed by God to live for an eternity. That yes, this outward shell will die, but we will be given new bodies in a new heaven and new earth. Not because we deserve it, but because God will give it to us. And so I want to let you know that if you're not a part of the Christian family, if you're not a follower of Jesus, that you were created for eternity. You weren't created for the temporary. And if you've never come to the point in your life when you've asked Jesus into your life to be your forgiver and leader, we want to invite you to make that decision. So if you're here and you want to make that decision, we can talk when we're done. Social distancing, of course. Or if you're watching online, then we can communicate through email, through texting, however you choose to communicate. But please know that the way out of hopelessness is found in the one who created hope. And so if you don't know him yet, I pray that today you will, or at least very soon. Let's pray.